Okay, we've got this evening edit exclusive. Back with us now, the ranking member of Senate Health and Education, Senator Bill Cassidy. Senator, thank you so much for joining us. So we're hearing you are set to speak from the Senate floor in less than an hour about your push, and along with Senators Joni Ernst and John Cornyn, to get rid of Biden's $400 billion student loan bailout. So can you give us an update on what's going on here?
Yeah, the president says that he's canceling student loans. He's not canceling those student loans. He is going to transfer the obligation to pay them back to those who already paid their student loans back or who never took the loan out in the first place. That's $400 billion being transferred from people who willingly took them on, in some cases making as a family $250,000 a year, to someone who never went to college, never wanted a loan, or if they did, they sacrificed to pay it back. It's wrong, it's unfair, it's just not the way things should be done. We're going to put this congressional review, CRA, in order to overturn this.
So what grounds in the CRA gives us, you and the senators, to do this, the grounds to do this?
Well, one, Congress can in our Review Act, Congressional Review Act, can go to an executive order or an administrative rule, and we can overturn it. Now, we need a couple of Democrats. I'm hoping Democrats will join. By the way, if you're a working class guy, you had to borrow money to buy your truck to go to work. You're a gal who's trying to make ends meet, never took a loan, never went to college, trying to make it work, and now this is being transferred to you. It is unfair. It shouldn't matter what your party is, period. It should matter that you want to be fair, that you're going to ask people who took on a loan to pay it back. And by the way, Biden doesn't fix the reason that people got stuck with bad debts to begin with. That problem is still there. He's just transferring their debt away. It is wrong policy and it's unfair policy.
Yeah, so what you just said, why are President Biden, senators like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders doing nothing to stop what happens with college tuition gouging? That's square one of this problem. Why aren't they going after college tuition gouging, tearing into middle-class family and working-class families' budget? People can't afford the college tuition with these fat cat academics and what they're charging American families.
Yeah, well, let me give a tip of hat to Senator Warren. Senator Warren and I disagree on almost everything. But one thing we agree on is what's called the College Transparency Act. That if somebody's about to borrow a lot of money, she's 18 years old, wants to go to college, that she could go online, see at this college, in this curriculum, what is my likelihood of graduating? How much am I going to have to borrow? And if I graduate, how much am I going to earn after I graduate? So if somebody spends $50,000 a year for 4 years to get a degree with which they couldn't get a job, they should know that. Now that shows that this is not a liberal or conservative issue. It is a fairness to the individual issue. And Senator Warren, as well as others on Democrats and Republicans, are supporting this bill. The Biden administration could have included it. They're not including it. They're not pushing it. They're willing to let the problem stay. They just want to transfer the debt to somebody else. We
have a new Siena College poll found that more than half the Democrats in New York State do not want Biden to run again. 51% of Democrats in New York State say he's got to go. And we're talking African Americans, Hispanic voters, minority voters. They say he's got to go. He's got a lot of taxes in his new budget, Senator, that he wants to pay for this big government spending. Let's watch. We'd like your reaction to this exchange between Senator John Kennedy and Treasury Secretary Yellen. Watch this.
Isn't it a fact that the president's proposed budget proposes $4.7 trillion in new taxes?
It does propose significant additional taxes, yes.
4.7 trillion?
Something like that, yes.
Senator, $4.7 trillion in new taxes?
Yeah, $4.7 trillion. By the way, I don't know what his priorities are. I'm concerned about Social Security going insolvent in about 9 years. That $4.7 trillion, not a dime is going to fix Social Security. So for the things that matter to people, inflation, he's awful on. Fixing Social Security so people don't get an automatic 24% cut when it goes broke. That's important to him. I could go down the list. He's failing on all those, which is why folks in his party are asking that he not run again. And folks in our party should be putting the best candidate up there that can beat Joe Biden.
Do you have Democrat senators who say yes to the new push to get rid of Biden's inflationary student loan bailout? That's unfair to plumbers, it's unfair to electricians, and it's unfair to the working class and tradespeople who did not go to college. It's unfair to Americans who paid off their debt. Do you have Democrat senators joining you guys?
We have 2 or 3 who might. I cannot promise that they will, but we have 2 or 3 who might, and we're hoping that they will. Fairness should not be a Democrat or Republican issue. Fairness should be an all of us issue. So I'll ask any Democratic senator to consider it fairly. Is this good for the person in your state who never went to college but is now having to pay the bills for those who took loans to go to college? And by the way, because they went to college, they are going to earn more. That's unfair.
Senator Cassidy, we'll stay on the story for sure. It's good to have you on, sir. Thanks for bringing us that Evening Edit exclusive. It's good to see you.